Add just an 8-9 cent serving of lentils to dinner, and your blood sugar could start dropping while you sleep. 11.2 A1c. That's not a number. That's a sentence. At 11.2, your blood isn't just carrying glucose, it's overloaded with it. Thick, sluggish, like syrup moving through vessels that were designed for something clean and fluid. And while you go about your life thinking this is under control, that sugar is doing something far more dangerous. It's attaching itself to your blood cells, coating them, aging them, and as those sugar-coated cells circulate, they're quietly damaging everything they touch. Your eyes, your kidneys, your nerves. Not years from now. Right now. Every minute. And when the lab results finally cross that line, when the number becomes too high to ignore, the system responds with a script so predictable it might as well be automated. We need to start insulin. No pause. No alternative pathway. No serious discussion about reversal. Because the uncomfortable truth is this. Modern medicine is incredibly advanced at managing chronic disease, but almost completely unstructured when it comes to reversing it. Not because doctors don't care, but because the system they're trained in doesn't reward reversal. It standardizes control. It scales dependency. So patients move forward step by step into a lifelong protocol they were never shown how to question. But Gloria did. Gloria is 71 years old, a retired school teacher who did everything right, took her medications, followed the guidelines, trusted the process. And still, her A1c climbed to 11.2. Her fasting blood sugar stayed above 200. Her feet tingled constantly. Her vision blurred at night. This wasn't prevention anymore. This was decline. And then came the moment that changed everything. Her doctor looked at her labs and said, "There's nothing more we can do with pills. Insulin is the next step." But Gloria didn't just hear a recommendation. She saw a future she had already witnessed. Her mother started insulin at 68. Within 2 years, she gained over 40 pounds. Infections became routine. Energy disappeared. Independence faded. And the final years of her life were spent in a nursing home. Gloria didn't want statistics. She had a memory. So she made a decision that most patients never even consider. I'm not going down that road. Let me ask you something. If you were in that chair, hearing those same words, would you have the courage to say no? Because here's what almost no one explains clearly. A1c is not your destiny. It's a measurement. A measurement of how much glucose has attached to your hemoglobin, your red blood cells. Think of those cells like tiny carriers, constantly moving through your bloodstream. Now imagine them being dipped in sugar, over and over again, 24 hours a day. That's what an A1c of 11.2 really represents. Your blood bathing in sugar. But here's the part that changes everything and almost never gets emphasized. Red blood cells only live about 120 days, which means every 4 months, your body replaces them. New cells, clean cells, a biological reset. And a landmark clinical trial, the DIRECT study, showed that nearly 46% of people with type 2 diabetes were able to bring their A1c below diabetic levels within a year, without insulin, without adding medication, simply by targeting the metabolic cause. So the real question isn't whether change is possible. The real question is this. What did Gloria do? In just 90 days. To start breaking a cycle she was told was permanent? But before I do, if you or someone you love is living with diabetes, stay until the end, because the third change might be the one that saves you. Food change number 1. This is the one that shocks people the most, because it's not fast food, it's not soda, it's not dessert, it's breakfast. The meal most people have been told is the healthiest part of the day. Gloria had been eating the same breakfast for over 30 years, every single morning, recommended by her doctor, approved by heart associations, packaged in a bright box with words like whole grain and heart healthy, raisin bran, 2 full bowls, with skim milk. and a glass of orange juice on the side. It looked clean. It felt responsible. It was destroying her blood sugar before 8 a.m. Let's break down what was actually happening. 1 cup of Raisin Bran contains around 18 grams of sugar, but no one eats 1 cup. Gloria was eating closer to 2. That's 36 grams of sugar. Add 1 cup of skim milk, another 12 grams of lactose. Then a small glass of orange juice, about 22 grams more. Total? Roughly 70 grams of sugar before 8 inches the morning. 70. For context, the American Heart Association recommends no more than 25 grams of added sugar per day for women. Gloria was consuming nearly 3 times that amount in one meal. And here's the most dangerous part. She thought she was doing the right thing. This is where the system quietly fails people. Because foods like this aren't just available, they're endorsed, marketed, recommended, built into dietary guidelines that were never designed for someone with insulin resistance. They tell you to avoid fat. They tell you to eat whole grains. They tell you to drink juice instead of soda. But they don't tell you what happens when you combine all of that in a body that can't process glucose efficiently. Here's the mechanism. That breakfast had almost 0 protein, almost 0 fat, and no meaningful fiber from whole food sources, which means there was nothing to slow down digestion. The carbohydrates broke down rapidly into glucose. That glucose flooded her bloodstream within minutes. A massive spike. Her pancreas had to respond instantly, dumping large amounts of insulin to try to control it. But after years of insulin resistance, her cells weren't responding well anymore. So the glucose stayed elevated, circulating, damaging, stressing every system in her body. This is what's called a postprandial spike. And for Gloria, it wasn't occasional. It was happening every single morning for 3 decades. Now, here's where everything changed. She didn't start a complicated diet. She didn't count calories. She didn't eliminate carbohydrates entirely. She made one decision. She removed the cereal. That's it. And replaced it with something the system spent years telling people to limit. 2 eggs, cooked in olive oil, half an avocado, a small handful of walnuts. No juice, no cereal, no skim milk. Within 5 days, just 5, her fasting blood sugar dropped from 226 to 191. 35 points. From one change. She told me she stared at the number on her glucose meter and didn't believe it. Not because 191 was good, but because it was the first time in over a year her number started with a 1. That moment mattered, because it proved something the system never made clear to her. Her body wasn't broken. It was responding. And here's why that new breakfast worked so differently. Eggs contain protein and fat. That protein triggers the release of a hormone called cholecystokinin CCK, which slows down how quickly food leaves your stomach. Fat does the same thing. So instead of glucose flooding into her bloodstream all at once, it entered slowly, controlled, manageable. And there's another layer most people miss. Protein in the morning triggers a small, early insulin response, not a spike, but a primer. Think of it like warming up an engine. When glucose enters later, even in small amounts, insulin is already present and ready to do its job efficiently. This is called the second meal effect. What you eat at breakfast changes how your body handles glucose for the next several hours. So Gloria didn't just remove a harmful spike. She reset her entire metabolic tone for the day. And the most uncomfortable truth? This wasn't hidden in some secret journal. The science has been known for years. But it's not emphasized, because it doesn't fit into a system built around prescriptions. It's simple, it's cheap, and it works, which makes it easy to overlook and incredibly powerful when finally applied. And that was just the first change. Food change number 2. And this one sounds almost too simple to matter, too ordinary, too cheap. Too easy to ignore. Lentils. That's it. The most overlooked food in the grocery store, might be one of the most powerful metabolic tools you've never been told to use. Because here's the truth. The cheapest food is often the least profitable to recommend. And in a system driven by prescriptions, not prevention, that matters. Gloria didn't grow up eating lentils. She didn't read about them in a trendy diet book. No one ever told her they could impact her blood sugar. She added them almost by accident. Half a cup. At dinner. Every night. And what happened next didn't show up immediately after she ate. It showed up the next morning. Her fasting blood sugar measured before she ate anything started dropping. Not slightly. Significantly. Which raises a question most people never think to ask. How can something you eat at night change your blood sugar hours later while you're asleep? Here's the mechanism. Lentils contain something called resistant starch. Not all carbohydrates are the same. Most are broken down quickly into glucose. Resistant starch is different. Your body can't digest it. It passes through your stomach and small intestine untouched and arrives in your colon intact. And that's where the real effect begins. Because in your gut, there are trillions of bacteria, some helpful, some harmful, and what you feed them determines which ones grow stronger. Resistant starch feeds specific beneficial bacteria. And when those bacteria break it down, they produce a compound called butyrate. This is where things get serious. Butyrate doesn't just stay in your gut. It sends signals throughout your body. It tells your liver to reduce glucose production overnight. It improves insulin sensitivity in your muscles. It reduces inflammation in your gut lining. In other words, it changes how your body handles sugar while you sleep. Let that sink in. You go to bed, and your food is still working. Quietly, systemically, resetting processes that medications often struggle to control. This is why Gloria's morning numbers started falling. Not because of what she ate at breakfast, but because of what she fed her gut the night before. And here's the part that should make you pause. Medications like metformin are designed to reduce the amount of glucose your liver releases overnight. That's one of their primary functions. But butyrate from something as simple as lentils affects a similar pathway. Different mechanism. Same outcome. Lower fasting glucose. So now you have to ask, why is this not standard advice? Why isn't every patient told to support their gut bacteria if it directly affects blood sugar control? Because it doesn't come in a bottle. It doesn't require a prescription. And it doesn't scale the same way. So it gets overlooked. Gloria didn't care about any of that. She just kept eating her lentils. And within weeks, her numbers reflected it. Her fasting glucose dropped steadily. Her body started stabilizing overnight. And for the first time in years, she woke up to better numbers than she went to sleep with. That's not supposed to happen. But it did. Because this change doesn't just work when you're awake. It works when you're asleep. Food change number 3. And this is where everything shifts. Because it's not about what you eat. It's about how you eat it. Same food. Same plate. Completely different outcome. This is called meal sequencing. And the formula is almost insultingly simple. Protein first. Vegetables second. Carbohydrates last. That's it. No calorie counting. No restriction. No expensive plan. Just order. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because this one change alone has been shown to reduce post-meal blood sugar spikes by up to 37%. 37% from changing the order of your fork. Same food, same person, same meal. Different sequence. Different biology. Now ask yourself this. If something this simple can reduce glucose spikes by over 1/3, why isn't it the first thing every diabetic patient is told? Why isn't it printed on prescription sheets? Why isn't it standard protocol? Because it doesn't fit the system. It doesn't require a product. It doesn't require a prescription. And it doesn't generate recurring revenue. So it gets ignored. But your body doesn't ignore it. Here's what actually happens. When you eat carbohydrates, first bread, rice, potatoes, those carbs break down rapidly into glucose and hit your bloodstream fast. A spike. Your pancreas reacts aggressively, releasing a large amount of insulin to try to control it. But if your system is already resistant, that insulin isn't as effective. So glucose stays elevated longer. More damage, more stress, more exhaustion on your pancreas. Now reverse the order. Protein first. When protein enters your stomach, it triggers the release of hormones like cholecystokinin, CCK, which slows down gastric emptying. Food stays in your stomach longer. Then comes GLP-1. This is where things get very interesting. GLP-1 is a hormone your body naturally produces that helps regulate blood sugar. It slows digestion, increases insulin efficiency, and reduces how quickly glucose enters your bloodstream. Sound familiar? It should. Because GLP-1 is exactly what drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy are designed to mimic. Synthetic versions, costing anywhere from $800 to $1,200 per month. And yet, your body produces this hormone for free. Every single time you eat protein before carbohydrates. Let that land. You are being sold a pharmaceutical solution for a biological process your body already knows how to activate. All it needs is the right signal. And that signal is sequence. When Gloria started doing this, nothing added, nothing removed, just rearranged. Her post-meal spikes dropped immediately. Same dinner, different order. Instead of overwhelming her system with glucose all at once, it entered gradually. Controlled, predictable, manageable. Her pancreas didn't have to panic. Her insulin didn't have to surge. Her body finally had time to respond. And when this change stacked on top of the first two, that's when everything accelerated. But this is also where most people make mistakes. Because they hear protein first, and then, unknowingly, cancel the entire effect. Let's raise the tension for a second. Because you can do everything Gloria did and still sabotage your results. Mistake number 1. Drinking sugar with your meal. Juice, soda, sweet tea, even healthy smoothies. Liquid sugar doesn't wait. It bypasses digestion. It flows around the protein, straight into your bloodstream. So while you think you're doing it right, eating protein first, you're simultaneously flooding your system with glucose from a different pathway. The result? The spike comes back. Mistake number 2. Rushing the sequence. This isn't symbolic. You can't take one bite of chicken and immediately follow it with bread and expect the same effect. Your body needs time. A few minutes of protein and vegetables before introducing carbohydrates. That delay matters. It's what activates the hormonal response. Mistake number 3. Assuming all carbs behave the same. Even when eaten last, highly processed carbohydrates can still spike your blood sugar aggressively. Sequence helps, but quality still matters. Now here's where it all comes together. The egg breakfast stabilized her mornings. The lentils controlled her overnight glucose. And meal sequencing reduced every spike in between. No gaps. No windows of uncontrolled sugar. For the first time in years, her blood sugar wasn't swinging wildly throughout the day. It was steady. And when glucose becomes stable, damage slows. When damage slows, healing begins. That's the part most people never get to experience. Because they're never shown how to control the spikes. They're only taught how to react to them. Gloria stopped reacting. She started controlling. And the most shocking part? This change didn't cost her anything. No supplements. No programs. No prescriptions. Just awareness. Just order. Just a fork, used differently. And when you realize that something this simple can outperform strategies that cost thousands per year, you start to see the system differently. Not necessarily as something designed to harm you, but as something that was never designed to fully empower you either. And that realization, that's where real change begins. Now listen carefully, because this is where most people fail. Not because the method doesn't work, but because they unknowingly destroy it. You can follow everything Gloria did, eggs in the morning, lentils at night, protein first at every meal, and still see no results. Why? Because of 3 dangerous mistakes. Mistakes no one warns you about. Mistake number 1. Drinking sugar with your meal. Juice, soda, sweet tea, even those healthy smoothies people feel good about. Here's the problem. Meal sequencing works by slowing down digestion. Protein creates a physical and hormonal break in your stomach. It delays how quickly food moves into your bloodstream. But liquid sugar doesn't wait. It doesn't need to be broken down. It doesn't sit in your stomach. It flows straight past the protein, straight into your small intestine, straight into your bloodstream. So while you think you're controlling your glucose, you're actually bypassing your own defense system. The spike comes back. The damage continues. No exceptions. If you're serious about controlling your blood sugar, your drink during meals is simple. Water, unsweetened tea, black coffee, nothing else. Now, mistake number 2. Too much fiber at the wrong time. This one surprises people. Because fiber is supposed to help, right? Yes. But more is not always better. Gloria was eating lentils at dinner, already packed with fiber. Now imagine adding a fiber supplement on top of that. Psyllium husk, fiber powders, gut health drinks. Suddenly, your digestive system is dealing with an overload. Over 30 grams of fiber in one sitting. For a younger body, that's uncomfortable. For someone over 60, it can be dangerous. Bloating, cramping, severe constipation, and in some cases, intestinal blockage, especially if gut motility is already slow. Here's the rule. 1 fiber strategy per meal. If you eat lentils at dinner, skip the supplement. If you take fiber earlier in the day, separate it. Because when you overload the system, you don't improve it. You stress it. Now, the 3rd mistake. And this is the one that can actually put you at risk. Changing your food too fast while staying on the same medication. This is critical. If you are taking medications like glipizide or glyburide drugs that force your pancreas to release insulin, your body is already being pushed to lower blood sugar. Now imagine you suddenly remove sugar-heavy meals. Add lentils. Start sequencing your food. Your blood sugar begins to drop. But the medication doesn't adjust. It keeps pushing insulin out at the same rate. And suddenly, your blood sugar drops too low. Hypoglycemia, dizziness, shaking, confusion. In older adults, this can lead to falls, hospitalizations, worse. So, hear this clearly. If you are on medication, do not rush this process. Start with 1 change. Monitor your numbers. Track your response. Then layer the next change. Because as your food starts doing more of the work, your medication may need to do less. And that adjustment must be supervised. Gloria didn't guess. Her doctor reduced her medication as her numbers improved. That's how it should be done. Now, here's the turning point. Because when she avoided these 3 mistakes, everything started to compound. Her morning numbers dropped. Her overnight glucose stabilized. Her post-meal spikes flattened. And the result? 11.2 dropped to 8.1 inches. Just 2 months. Her doctor paused, extended her timeline, watched. Then it kept going. Month by month. 8.1 to 6.4 to 5.9. Let that sink in. From severely diabetic to below the diabetic threshold. No insulin. Reduced medication. Restored energy. And the most important shift of all? Control. She was no longer reacting to her disease. She was influencing it. And this is the part that needs to be said clearly. This was not a miracle. It was not luck. It was not a rare exception. It was biology. Predictable, repeatable biology. When you remove the constant glucose overload, when you support your gut, when you control the speed of absorption, the system changes. Your numbers follow. The problem is, most people are never shown how to do this correctly. They're handed prescriptions, not strategies. And when simple, powerful methods exist but aren't emphasized, you have to ask why. But Gloria didn't wait for that answer. She acted, and her body responded. The only question now is, what will you do with this? This is where everything comes together. Not theory, not debate, not another confusing protocol. Just action. Simple, direct, repeatable. Because Gloria didn't change her life overnight. She changed 3 things. And those 3 things created a system her body could finally respond to. Here's exactly what that looks like. Morning. Not cereal. Not juice. Not the heart-healthy breakfast that spikes your blood sugar before your day even begins. 2 eggs. Cooked in healthy fat olive oil or butter. Add half an avocado. Or a small handful of nuts. That's it. You're not flooding your system with sugar. You're stabilizing it. You're giving your body protein and fat signals that slow digestion, reduce spikes, and prepare your metabolism for the rest of the day. This is how you start. Now dinner. This is where most people lose control and don't even realize it. Add lentils. Half a cup. Not expensive. Not complicated. Not trendy, but powerful. Because while you sleep, this is where the real work happens. Those lentils feed your gut bacteria. Your gut produces butyrate. And that butyrate tells your liver to stop dumping excess sugar into your bloodstream overnight. So you wake up and with lower numbers than you went to bed with? That's the shift. And then, every meal. This is the rule that ties everything together. Protein first. Vegetables second. Carbohydrates last. Every time you sit down to eat. No exceptions. Because this isn't about restriction. It's about control. Control over how fast glucose enters your bloodstream. Control over how hard your pancreas has to work. Control over whether your body is constantly reacting or finally stabilizing. And when you apply all 3, morning stability, daytime control, overnight correction, a full 24-hour system. Now hear this clearly. You are not powerless. You were never powerless. You were just never shown how much control you actually had. Because the narrative you've been given is simple. Take the medication. Follow the system. Accept the progression. But Gloria proved something different. Your kitchen is not just where you eat. It's where you fight back. Every meal is a decision point. Every plate is an opportunity. Not to be perfect, but to shift the direction. Now I want you to do something. Don't just watch this and move on. Choose. Which change will you start with? The breakfast? The lentils? The sequencing? Pick one. Start there. And if you're serious about taking control, type this in the comments. I choose food over pills. Not because medication is the enemy, but because you're choosing to participate in your own outcome. You're choosing awareness over autopilot. You're choosing action over waiting. And that matters. Because once you see this, you can't unsee it. Now, before you go, there's something else you need to understand. Because everything we covered today controls blood sugar. But there's a deeper layer. The damage behind insulin resistance itself. The reason your cells stop responding in the first place. There is a specific food, one that most diabetics have been told to avoid, that has been shown to help restore insulin receptor sensitivity, not manage symptoms, repair the response. I break it down step by step in the next video. It's on your screen right now. Watch that next. Because once you understand that piece, everything you learned today becomes even more powerful. I'll see you there.